Good morning, everybody. I got something I want to show you guys. I'm going to spin you around. That is a green approved sticker, which means we are fully inspected and can get moving on to building the gym in the back corner of this garage, which is what today's episode is all about. So we got everything set in here, all the lumber is ready to go. So what are we building? Well, we're building kind of a home gym, climbing area, gear storage, sort of all in one room in the back corner of our garage. It is also going to be the wall that behemoth of a canoe gets stored on, and we'll be hopefully getting to that today. So that's kind of a cool storage idea. So stick around to make sure you see that. But let's get framing. Okay, so I enlisted my trusty helper, aka my daughter, to help me mark out the size of the room so you can see our chalk lines there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to roll out some poly to stop any moisture from coming up into that base plate. Now, you could use something like a PL premium glue to do this, like we did on our exterior walls, but if we ever want to move this wall, I don't want it to be glued down and have all that gunk that I then have to deal with. So we're going to roll down that poly to stop that moisture from coming up, and then we'll lag bolt the base plate down, and we'll get building this wall. Okay, so I can tell I'm getting really excited about having this space back here finished off because I'm getting way ahead of myself talking about poly and stuff on the ground. Before I get to any of that, I need to add some bracing in between the trusses up top so I can actually attach the top plate of my wall to something. So we'll actually start there. Alright, so let me explain exactly what I did here. So I first started out by figuring out where my first sheet of plywood was going to end. And then I measured 3/4 of an inch backwards from that. So right there, which is 47¼ inches. Now I know from this point onwards all the way down that way, as well as that point backwards, I can add a stud 16 inches on center. So I nail a nail in there, I pull out my tape, and at every 16-inch mark or 24-inch mark, I make a location for a stud. I can then transfer that between my top plate and my bottom plate so that my studs will sit in the exact same place on both. Wall is finished off, but I haven't actually anchored my base plate down to the concrete yet. And the reason for that is I can move it a couple millimeters still in case anything is out of plumb. But we're looking pretty dang good, so we're gonna sink this thing and anchor it down to the floor. So we're gonna anchor our walls down with a sleeve anchor. These are very similar to what I used on the outside of the garage, except they're all contained in one unit this time. We'll pre-drill our holes. Now, as you know, I returned that Makita that I tested months ago, and all I have left is kind of my smaller hammer drill, so hopefully this still goes into this concrete okay. It is relatively fresh raw concrete, so it shouldn't be too bad. But as we tighten this nut down, it will flare out the little sleeve on the end. That bell bottom that you can see there will flare out a sleeve, gripping our pad. Wall is built, it's anchored down. Before I can get onto the other wall, the doorway wall of this gym, I need to get that canoe out of there so it's not stuck in there. And I have nowhere to put it other than to put it where it's going to be stored permanently. So I'm going to quickly sheet this with some leftover OSB, and then we're going to dive into the coolest way you've ever seen to hang and store a canoe. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty cool. Hopefully you do too. Stick around. So I promised you guys a cool way to hang a canoe, and what we're going to be using is some old garage door rails, and an old winch rigged up to slide on garage door rails. Let's grab an extension cord and see if this thing works. It hasn't been plugged in like 3 years. I'm excited. Let's get this canoe hanging. Gonna be a bit of a challenge with the 10 trailer sitting in here, but let's do what we can. Because after all, I need it out of the way anyways. Pretty cool system, electric cable hoist on some old garage door rails, works awesome. Now, didn't quite go quite as smoothly as I'd hoped, and that nose is poking into the wall cavity over there, so I think later on we're going to move everything over a couple inches, but that admittedly will probably wait till next summer when this tent trailer is not in the way, because that made everything a lot more challenging. On that note, the workout room is now wide open and clear, which means we can get building that second wall over there. Alrighty, well after we finished off that canoe last night, it was getting a little chilly out here, so I decided to pack it in. So today, the last part of this video is going to be framing up the doorway wall for the workout room. So I'm just going to take a minute and walk through exactly how I like to lay out a wall with a door in it. So I start by figuring out my center, exactly where the center of my door is going to be. From there I figure out my edge of my door, and that then gives me the location of my jack stud and my king stud. I repeat the same process on the other side. I figure out my edge, then I have my jack stud and my king stud. Now, from there we go to our overall framing. We know we're going to have a corner stud, and we just work off our corner stud, whether it's 16 inches on center or 24 inches on center, to find our next stud location. Yeah.